March is finally here and I am so ready and I am so excited. And this month's printable has, I think, some fun little things in it that might seem a little random, but to me they so signify March and spring, which I am totally ready for. I'm so done with the winter thing. Winter's great, but when we're coming to the end of February, I'm ready to move on and do something fun and get some bright colors and remember some warm things and watch the daffodils and the crocus and all the other early spring bulbs start popping up. So I'm using the basic Tombow markers as usual. This one that I cannot pronounce the name of is the one I'm writing with. So there's the word. I can't pronounce it. If anyone else can, let me know. And then of course just the Tombow. I'm not using any adhesive this time. This is the Printable. You can find the access to it in the description box below. And I'm only using the sticker paper this time. So this is what I had planned and thought about, because I want to make this really spring. And in this journal on that left hand page that I'm working on right now, I used watercolor last time and it kind of puffy wrinkled the page, which is totally fine with me. And I'm using this green marker and I'm just going to go across the entire page, both pages, with these green stripes, and they're not going to be perfect and they're not going to be awesome, and I am totally happy with that because it just reminds me of the things that are popping up in spring and all of this bright green that comes into play, which is probably one of my favorites. And since it's my color for this year, it kind of worked out well that I was just doing the entire background in green stripes. And this is that thing that says that we have spring and there's new life and growth and something fun. It's like you can just feel it in the air that something new is happening. Whether anything new is happening or not, all the plants are coming alive and they're all hiding underneath the soil going, is it warm yet? Is it warm yet? Can we come out? Can we come out? And I'm ready for them to come out, obviously. So this space that I'm working in, I wanted it to be fresh and very springy, but as I worked through this, I realized that a lot of these printables, a lot of these images that I made have kind of this theme of taking flight. And the dragonfly just cracked me up because I had to turn the dragonfly body into a tulip. And it was just something that I'm like, oh, I need a dragon tulip. Is that even? I don't think that's a thing, but it made me happy. So that's what this is all about, is figuring out what makes you happy and embracing it and jumping into the things that bring you joy and happiness. And then I had to do a rainbow. And the rainbow cracked me up because I'm like, well, it's kind of boring and now it's kind of crooked and how am I going to put this in here? And finally, when I got the green right in the middle, I thought, oh, there it is. There it is. And I love the little owl. It's one of my favorites. And the coffee mug. I mean, I kind of like all of them, but I think those two are my favorites. I'm not highly impressed with the way my flowers turned out. They're kind of going to be a work in progress. But for the most part, I'm just kind of working through at this point, figuring out where I'm going to put things. And that little house with the mushroom shrubs, did I say that right? Mushroom shrubs just cracks me up because you'll see that when I did the little house, I made the chimney a vase. And what better to come out of a chimney than flowers? I like the idea of things being not normal and a little wonky and maybe a little off. And I think spring is a great time to embrace some of that wonkiness. And I have these kind of Van Gogh-ish cloud symbol-y type things that I made. Well, while I'm doing this video I'm editing and doing this voice thing, we actually have storm clouds outside, or actually a storm. And it's so funny because I'm thinking I didn't do any clouds, I didn't do any lightning, and here I am working on this double page spread for March, and it's storming outside. So I would say March is coming in like a lion right now. It's okay when you cut these out and you get ready to put them down to just take your time and figure out where you want them. And it's not that, oh, well, this should go here because it's in the sky, and this should go here because it should be on the ground. It's more about where does it feel good and where does it make me happy, and is it different and is it unique, and is it something I can put there that, instead of it looking like, oh, this is normal, this is what it should look like. Think about making it look like the way you would want it to look like if you were creating your own world and your own space. How would you want it to look? Would you want flowers growing out of the ceiling and coming out of the chimney? Would you want rainbows on the ground instead of in the air? Stuff like that. Anything that's whimsical or imaginative. This is what the whole process is about, is tapping into the imagination that God has given you. And there's some back and forth about the imagination and the creative. Well, if we did not have the imagination that God had given us, we could not even begin to understand or perceive the book of Revelation or the book of Daniel. These are all incredible things that we have to use our imagination to comprehend the words, to build the mental picture. And so much of Scripture is full of imagery and poetry and things that we use the imagination to actually visualize. And it's this huge gift that God has given us, and we don't always pay attention to it. And most of the time, most people don't even tap into it or use it. And it's one of those things that it's worship. It's how we relate to our Creator, to our Heavenly Father. And it's one of the ways that He talks to us and loves to spend time with us, is just sharing the imagination and asking us to dream with Him and to see things differently, and to picture a new heaven, a new earth, a new way of life. It's just this greatest opportunity to sit, to hang out with God, and just have a good time and just pretend and imagine and dream. It's one of the things He loves, is just to dream with us. And that's a lot of what doing these pages every month is about. It's about taking the time to dream with God, to ask Him and say, what do you think? And what could be, and how could this be? And I know, we know the verse that says, without a vision, the people perish. Well, a vision is your imagination. It's something that you imagine. And even though vision in that specific verse also means the law, without direction, the people perish, it also has the dual meaning of imagine. And that's part of this, like I said, this great gift that God has given us is the ability to imagine with Him. And I think He likes to sit and hang out with us when we're coloring, or when we're, raking the leaves, or picturing things on the ground, sticks and leaves and things that might form an image, or the clouds when you look up and they form an image. That's God. That's God dreaming with you and saying, hey, take a look at it from my angle. Use the imagination, because, Scripture says, in the beginning, God created. Well, that makes Him a creator. That also makes Him imaginative. Is it not the coolest thing to think that in 7 days He dreamed up, well, I guess 6 days, He dreamed up and created this entire universe from His imagination? And that huge imagination that He has is exactly what He's given us, because we're created in His image, literally. I'm trying to figure out where I want to put this cake because I really like that cake and I'm not having a good time fitting it in here. And the owl is one of my favorites, and I'm not sure where she's going to go either. But as you can see, there are flowers, there's dragonflies, there's butterflies, there's the owl, and then there's that little hot air balloon. And these are all things that are, you know, when you take flight. So all I can think about when I'm doing this is blooming and taking flight, which I think is totally funny because when I started creating these, when I was painting them and putting them together, I wasn't really thinking about that. I was just thinking about, okay, what are images for spring? And maybe that's what it is. Maybe the images for spring is that we bloom and we take flight and we blow and we enjoy and we imagine. Maybe that's what spring brings us with this new life. So I'm pretty sure this is where the owl is going to go. I think she's going to be very happy right up there, kind of taking center stage, which I think she should because I think she's pretty cute. And I like this new life, but I wanted to use the one that was on, I started to use the one that was on the sticker paper that was transparent, and it wasn't showing up well enough. So if you do use the sticker paper from Avery, you can, as you can see here, you can kind of peel the edges up sometimes. If you haven't pushed down and really put it down really hard, you can pick the edges up and kind of tuck things underneath if you want to. So that was a cool thing that I found out. So I decided to not use the transparent one, but use the one that was on the Avery sticker paper. And then I decided I needed another rainbow, but I needed it to go sideways because why not? When you look at a rainbow, if you ever go on Facebook and you look up rainbows, you will find tons of images of full rainbows. And they are the coolest thing because we only see part of a rainbow. We don't see the entire thing. And they're literally oblong or circles. They're full. They're not just over the horizon. I wanted to pull in some more of that green. So the squiggle lines around the march, I think, was probably something that I wanted to really add to it. So it looks like it's kind of more framed and kind of set on the page or set into the page. And of course, I always have to do some kind of dots because I just have this thing with dots. I don't know what the deal is, but they just make me happy. So when you're doing your pages, do the things that make you happy. And if you're not sure what makes you happy, just experiment. Get out a piece of paper and play around with some doodling and some art making and see what really says to you that it's going to make you happy. The blue, unfortunately, when I first went around, it was really hard to see because I didn't use the brush end of the Tombow marker. But then I went back and did every second or third or something on those little strokes that I made. And then I liked it. I thought it added a little bit more to it, which was kind of cool. I decided that there needed to be hope in the rainbow because that's pretty much what the rainbow was, you know, after the flood. It was kind of to signify hope. And I think that worked out really well. And then on the other rainbow, I put joy. And that's another thing to think about when you have these printables. Write on the printable. Don't be afraid to change the printable or to write on it or to make it something that resonates more with you. So when I'm doing so much yes, I wanted to really validate the things that made me happy, that were so amazing to me about spring. And those were and are warm weather, sunshine, flowers, yummy Easter goodies. And then for the last one, I thought about taking a long walk, which actually I didn't think about that. I put the bullet point. I didn't think about it until I had finished a couple of other things. So on new life, it was something that I wanted to remember, that new life is what peeks from beneath the leaves, the early spring bulbs that bloom. And I was kind of doing this in bullet point again, but then sometimes I get stuck and can't think of what I want to write. So the last one was sweet little ducks and bunnies and chicks. And I really got stuck on that. What are the little critters? Because I didn't really want to write little critters, but I wanted to, say something about all the baby animals that are generally born in spring. And I keep having trouble keeping that butterfly down because of the crinkly page that I'm on. So I wanted to go back with the remember. And again, this is a sticker and I'm writing on top of it. I wanted to put that coffee cup on there because, sometimes we use coffee and sit and just kind of think about. And I wanted to remember to breathe deep, to celebrate life, to listen closely. I wanted to remember to slow down. And I also wanted to remember that in all things and with all things, I can trust him. And then I remembered long walks. For some reason, trust him brought about long walks. Not sure why that is, but it worked out. So, and then I start thinking about this cute little house and, all the blessings we have, and how thankful I am for this little tiny house that I live in. And even though that doesn't look like my tiny house, it's kind of what made me remember it. Now, you're going to see on this that I make a mistake because I want to put a dot after joy, and then I decided don't want to, and it smudges. And this is on the sticker paper, so I just kind of wiped it off, and I'm not going to stress about it because it's just fine. So I wanted to put joyful. And I like using the word full with these other ideas and thoughts instead of just F-U-L. I like using the full word of full, as in F-U-L-L, because I want to be full of thanks and I want to be full of joy. And up here above these butterflies, they just reminded me, when they're flying around and landing on things, it just is so peaceful. So they really signified to me this idea of peacefulness. And I realized that even though we celebrate January 1st as the beginning of the year, it just seems like it would make more sense that spring would be the beginning of the year. I think our calendar, for some reason, is messed up. I think we need to rewrite the calendar and make spring the beginning of the year, because it makes so much more sense, just to me anyway. And, winter is when it's like you're slowing down and you're ending, and spring is when you're starting. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. It's very possible. But I think because I like the idea of starting with spring as the beginning of the year, it makes more sense to me. So what I wrote was, more than January 1st, spring always says new year to me, new life, starting something for the first time. I wonder if the calendar isn't mistaken. New comes with spring, when flowers hustle to make their push through the soil, reaching to the sun, S-U-N, much like we celebrate the sun, S-O-N, and his resurrection. And this is where my camera turned off. So I've linked, or I've given you the image of the entire double page spread just ahead, and you can pause the video and read the text. There's a quote and there's a verse, and for some reason the camera just decided it was done working and it wasn't going to go anymore. So yeah, but at the very end of the video you'll see the double page spread that's completed with the verse and the little quote, and you can check that out there. So I hope you're having a wonderful March, and let's enjoy this beautiful time together.